Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are doing a in-depth tropical update and then a severe weather update. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first we're going to start off with the tropics, and I am using Zoom Earth. This is a great app. It's free. And it's also on Google, but I do believe you can download it on mobile. But let's go ahead and get into it. So first we're going to start off with the National Hurricane Center update. Let's take a look at Invest 94L. This will be getting into the Gulf of Mexico here shortly. And this has a 50% chance of development in the next 48 hours and 7 days. But that's mainly going to be for the next probably 3 or 4 days, as it will be making, I guess you could say, landfall shortly. And then we have another system behind Tropical Storm Barrel, and this now has a 70% chance of development in the next 7 days. So they did actually bump this up another 10% in the newest update. So let's take a look at Tropical Storm Barrel. This has winds up to 65 miles an hour, but it has a very small wind field currently. But this is expected to become a hurricane later today, actually. But they are forecasting this to make it to major hurricane status. So that this will be our first major hurricane and first hurricane of the year. So let's take a look at where it most likely will impact. We actually already have some hurricane watches and tropical storm watches up in portions of the Windward Islands. And then once this gets into this area, this is supposed to be Category 3, which is major hurricane. But then it will most likely die somewhat and just make it back to hurricane status as it gets into portions of the Caribbean and closer to Cuba. So let's take a look at this from Zoom Earth. Here it is right now. This is around 2:30 p.m. as I'm recording this, and this is a 65 mile per hour tropical storm. But this is supposed to make it to an 80 mile per hour hurricane. That's Category 1 around 8 p.m. tonight. And then this is supposed to make it to Category 2 status very fast, and that's supposed to be 100 mile per hour Category 2. And then we'll keep it moving once it's near St. Vincent and Barbados. It's supposed to be a major hurricane Category 3 of 115 miles an hour, and that is supposed to be its peak wind speed as of now. But it could get upgraded a little bit more. But then we'll keep it moving towards Jamaica. It's supposed to be a Category 2, and then eventually get down to Category 1 status as it is south of Cuba. And that's still supposed to be a somewhat strong Category 1. I'd say that's a middle to slightly stronger Category 1 at that. But then once we get to the end of this track, it could maybe try to move into portions of Mexico or make it into the Gulf of Mexico. Earlier they had it pointing towards Mexico, but then earlier they had it pointing towards the Gulf. So still have to figure some things out with this. But as of now, it seems to be about the same track. So may try to make a landfall in Mexico and then get back into the Gulf of Mexico, but we will get into that later. So let's take a look at the GFS. This is Tropical Tidbits. This is a free site, and I'm using the GFS. So let's get it started. Excuse me. Alright, so here is Tropical Storm Barrel. It's showing it as a 992 millibar low pressure at about 2 p.m., which is around when I'm making this video. And we keep it moving. It does get it to a sub 990 millibar tropical storm, or, well, by then it'd be a hurricane. But then it does actually drop it down to a 973 millibar hurricane. That'd be most likely Category 2. But then we'll keep it moving. it wants to get all the way down to a 964 millibar hurricane, which most likely would then be a Category 3. Then we'll keep this moving. It does make landfall on some of those islands. Then we'll keep this moving. It does try to maintain, but once it gets south of Puerto Rico, it does start to lose some strength. So let's keep this moving here. This is July 2nd. And then it does maintain somewhat, but it does eventually start to weaken. And then it shows another landfall on one of those islands. And then take a look at the system behind it. That'd actually be Hurricane Chris. Most likely that'd be a Category 1, maybe a Category 2. But let's focus on Beryl for right now. And then it does show it eventually most likely dying out, and it still maintains tropical storm status, and then it makes landfall in Mexico and tries to re-enter the Gulf of Mexico and maybe make another landfall as a hurricane in portions of Mexico, but that is a little far out for right now. So let's take a look at the system behind it. And this actually has it on July 3rd as a 996 millibar tropical storm, and then it does most likely make it to hurricane status. That'd be Hurricane Chris, most likely the second hurricane of the season, but most likely it'd be a Category 1, maybe a low in Category 2, but then this does show it making landfall once again, and then getting shredded by that shear. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I made a video, and I talked about that a little bit in my video yesterday. We also have another tropical disturbance in the eastern Pacific I thought we should mention. This, as of now, just has a 20% chance of development in the next 7 days. And development means form into a tropical depression or tropical storm. And there is some gradual development possible during the next several days, but nothing too much as of now. Let's take a look at our watches, warnings, and advisories. We have a large area of excessive heat warnings in portions of Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee. Then we have another area of heat advisories surrounding that in portions of Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Kentucky, Tennessee, even Alabama, portions of Georgia, and the Carolinas. Let's take a look at our day one. This is the day one severe weather risk. We have 3 areas of a slight risk. But I think the main one will be in portions of Pennsylvania, New York, and Ohio, where we actually have a 5% tornado risk. This does include Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then we have 3 areas of a 15% wind risk, and then 3 areas of a 5% hail risk. I do want to mention we have a tornado watch ongoing in portions of Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. And there's actually a 40% chance of 2 or more tornadoes, and then an 80% chance of 6 or more combined severe hail or wind events. We have a day 2 slight risk, and we actually have 2 of them, one in portions of North Dakota and Montana, and then another one in on the East Coast. That does include all of Maine, all of New Jersey, all of Rhode Island, and a lot of Maryland, a good bit of Virginia, a little bit of North Carolina, all of Delaware is also in that, and then a good bit of New York is also in that, but New York City, you're in that slight risk as well. We actually have a 2% tornado risk in this area as well. It does include all of Maine and more states, like I just mentioned, New Jersey, Delaware, some portions of Maryland, and then Rhode Island as well. We have 2 areas of a 15% wind risk, one in North Dakota and Montana, and then one on the East Coast. And then we have 2 areas of hail risk, but the main one will be in portions of North Dakota and Montana, as we have a 15% hail risk. But on the East Coast, we also have a 5% hail risk as well. This is the day 3 risk. We have a slight risk in portions of Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minneapolis, and portions of Iowa. Excuse me. And then we actually have a smaller marginal risk in portions of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. And as of now, the marginal risk is a 5% risk of severe weather. But then that slight risk, we have a hatched area, which is a significant area. But I believe that will most likely be for hail, but it could be for wind as well. And then we have a day 4, 15% severe weather risk. This does include Des Moines, Iowa. And as of now, just 15% risk, which is a slight risk, but could watch for a possible upgrade to enhanced, but I think it will maintain itself as a slight risk. So let's take another look at the tropics. Just once again, 94L, Invest 94L, has a 50% chance of development. This system behind Tropical Storm Beryl is actually not dubbed an Invest yet, but it has a 70% chance of development in the next 7 days. And then Tropical Storm Beryl, once again, let's see if we have any more updates. We do not. But Tropical Storm Beryl as of now, 65 mile per hour winds. It's moving west at 23 miles an hour. And then we have a few hurricane watches and a few tropical storm watches as well. So with that, that's all I have for this video. Thank you for tuning in, and please make sure to stay safe and continue tuning back in for more updates. So with that, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good one, everybody.